I noticed my levels were weird when I was recording with Natalie yesterday.
My levels have been consistently weird. Ha ha!
Mine are like lower. Like
There's
they'll be lower than I
clipping.
expect,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it spikes when I do like my annoying shriek laughter.
That's mine too, as well.
too low.
You're talking about serotonin, right? Yeah, that's what we were talking about, right? Our serotonin levels.
Yeah.
All right, solid. Yeah, definitely. But that's, I was thinking about that because I heard
about
some
serotonin.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I was reflecting on how I was feeling last week, which was, again, that was the kind of like trough, as it were. But despite, the current events making me saying everything to the contrary, I was feeling a little bit better. It's also
Good.
like this crazy storm came through. It wasn't like very bad a storm compared to what we've had like this summer or whatever, but it totally changed the air in the Northeast, where it's just like September crisp, very dry air. It's like 40% humidity or whatever. And this is where I live. Like this is where I come out to thrive in the harvest season.
It's pumpkin spice season.
Yes, because
PSL season.
I don't think
You would love a pumpkin spice latte.
You know what it is? I'm going to say something a bit controversial.
Uh-oh.
I think cinnamon as a spice is overused in general. Yeah. I think it's good.
You think it's overused?
I think it's leaned on quite a lot.
By like weak bakers?
Bring back nutmeg.
Nutmeg is part of pumpkin pie spice.
Yeah, but I think that's underused. In fact, it's got a little bit more of a bit more of an adult flavor than cinnamon.
It is underrated. Like
children.
You can put nutmeg, like you can like spice your meat with nutmeg, and that's like a great.
Yes,
that's a great
flavor.
Wow.
I love eating food like I'm cooking it in outside of Appomattox in a Civil War battle. Just seasoning just the fetid, salted pork just to get through to go fight another day. We'll all go down to Dixie away, away.
I don't know about that one.
I don't know about that one, right?
Fuck, I'm on a tear, man. We should probably start before anything starts going.
Now when I was a young boy, about the age of 5, my teachers taught me I could be the greatest man alive. They told me I could change the world, be whatever I wanted to be. There was no one in the world like me. Every one of us was so unique. I'd not be an average man. No sir, I'd be no average man.
Welcome back, everyone, to Eat the Rich. This is a show about our political economy, late-stage capitalism, and the millionaires, billionaires, and multinational corporations hell-bent on staving off its death rattle. I'm Dwight, and today we have with us Chris.
Hello.
And we've got Carrie.
Hello.
So, oh my God. I know it's weird, like, doing the intro for something like this, because after having done the research and, like, speaking to people that don't have their brains as fucking broken as ours is now and only will be by the end of the hour and a half or whatever like this, it's fucking insane, because Carvana is our topic today, as well as its founder, Ernest Garcia II, and his son, in fact, Ernest Garcia III.
Neither of whom I'd ever heard of. I'd heard of Carvana.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
but I'd never heard of these guys.
It's listed as the Amazon of cars. Some of you may have bought your car from Carvana.
The big vending machine where you put a big coin in it and a car comes out.
What a marketing fucking scam.
What a sick world.
Do you actually put a big coin in it? They do a thing like that?
I don't know. I just said that. Do they do that?
I don't know. I guess I could maybe
out.
kind of appreciate it if they did. I would appreciate the gag, I suppose. But
oh yeah, it is. It is with a coin.
Seriously?
Is it really?
Yeah, I mean, I just looked up Carvana coin. There's like a little coin with a car on it with the halo on the car, and you can.
These people are sick.
Slide it in. What a sick world. What a sick world.
So this is by far one of like the most corrupt shits I think we've ever like encountered in the history of this podcast. And that's saying a lot. I mean, maybe it feels that way just because it's happening in front of our face right now and like it hasn't blown up yet.
Sure, yeah.
And like I can't imagine that at some point it won't, and by the time we get to the end of the episode maybe you'll understand why. Because to me it's like, if it looks like shit, and it smells like shit. It's a better way to buy a car, actually.
That's doo-doo.
The Amazon of cars, but like Amazon, it's fucked up. So let's get into this. Let's get into Carvana. Let's get into Ernest Garcia II. Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you to do a little bit of intro here.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Talking a little bit about the father, Ernest Garcia II here. Not a whole lot out there about this guy and his early life, really. His net worth currently, I believe this was off of Forbes. It was like as of like September, so of 2021. So it was pretty recent. Is I believe 18.5 billion. Is his personal net worth. Not to mention obviously also what his son, who is also a billionaire, has. But Ernest Garcia II was born in 1957. Again, like I said, not a whole lot of information about his early life. His father owned a liquor store and was also at one time the mayor of a town called Gallup, New Mexico. He went to University of Arizona, dropping out before graduating and becoming a stockbroker, and then later a real estate developer based out of Phoenix and then Tucson. It was during his time in real estate that he first became associated with Charles Keating, the noted anti-pornography activist and financier, best known for his role in the savings and loan crisis of the late 1980s. Because Keating also at this time was based out of Phoenix, and he'd purchased his own real estate firm there in the late 70s called American Continental Corporation. Then using American Continental to buy Lincoln Savings and Loan Association in 1984, which he would then just burn to the fucking ground 5 years later, basically, and then go to prison after being convicted of. Go ahead.
What was the episode that we did with Savings and Loan? That was on Michael Milken, right?
Yeah, I believe so. We have numerous references to these guys, Boesky and Milken, and Milken's. Like if you look up like on the Wikipedia page specifically for like the savings and loans crisis, like they mentioned particularly like one of the most egregious deals involving like some sort of like $51 million real estate deal between Keating and Michael Milken. But so Charles Keating, he ends up getting wrapped up in all this and getting convicted of numerous counts of fraud and racketeering and conspiracy. And this guy, Ernest Garcia, who actually is the subject of the first criminal charges to come out of the investigation into Lincoln Savings and Loans, and he pled guilty to one charge of bank fraud back in 1990. And to kind of get into the details, because this is like the kind of key thing to know about him before we get into the Carvana, the used car stuff. And this is an article out of, I believe this was in the Los Angeles Times back in 1990. Turn to this article here. This is from, I believe it was in the Los Angeles Times in 1990. It goes into a little bit of the, what exactly happened with Ernest Garcia and Keating and Lincoln Savings and Loan. So reading here, it says, Ernest C. Garcia II, a 33-year-old Tucson developer, admitted that he fraudulently obtained a $30 million line of credit in a series of transactions that also helped Lincoln hide its ownership in risky desert Arizona land from regulators. Garcia is the first person charged with a crime in the federal probe of Lincoln's collapse. A federal grand jury in Los Angeles has been investigating Lincoln's failures for more than a year. Charles H. Keating, a Phoenix developer whose company owned Lincoln, is the central target of the probe. Garcia entered the plea Tuesday before U.S. District Judge James M. Eidman after federal prosecutors filed an information, essentially an indictment agreed to without going through a grand jury. Garcia, free on a $5,000 personal bond, is scheduled to be sentenced April 19th. The bank fraud charge carries a maximum of 5 years in prison, a $250,000 fine, and restitution. In a prepared statement, Garcia said he entered the plea, quote, with tremendous feelings of remorse, which he will, He will go on to show his contrition by never doing anything, shady again in any of his business dealings.
No, wouldn't be.
He's a good boy now.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit more reading here from his quote. After careful consideration of all the facts, numerous consultations with legal counsel, and most importantly, consideration of my family, I felt it was best to try and put the circumstances and mistakes of the last 3 years behind us, he said. Given the benefit of hindsight, I would have done some things differently. Federal prosecutors said the plea agreement requires Garcia to cooperate in the continuing Lincoln probe, but they declined to detail what would be required of him. Lincoln's failure is expected to cost taxpayers $2 billion.
Oh, it's so crazy, dude. It's so for those that aren't familiar with like savings and loan crisis, like I just naked pilfering from the public coffers, and the taxpayer had to just pick it all up. It's so fucked up.
Yeah, and this the next part of this goes a little bit into exactly what Garcia's involvement of that was. So it says here, the bank fraud charge alleges that Garcia was a straw borrower used by executives at Lincoln and its parent firm, American Continental Corporation, to hide the true ownership of 1,000 acres of desert land outside Phoenix.
So he was like borrowing for somebody else. That's what a straw borrower is, right?
He was getting Lincoln gave him a $30 million line of credit to so that he could then buy this real estate from American Continental Corp and disguise who the actual owner of it was, and to try to hide the fact that the borrowing was related to the purchase at the same time. They were, you know what I'm saying? It was kind of a way to, get him in on it and kind of hide what was really going on there. It says the information charges that instead of being an arm's length transaction, the sale of the desert land for $14 million was actually an illegal quid pro quo for Garcia's line of credit. Westcon put $3.5 million down. Money regulators came from Lincoln through Garcia and borrowed the remaining amount from a Lincoln subsidiary. Regulators who had been pressing Lincoln to rid itself of risky holdings in undeveloped Arizona desert land doubted both the values Keating put on the land and the arrangements he used to sell some of it. Westcon never repaid the $10.5 million loan it received from Lincoln for the balance of the purchase price. In a letter, the company asked that the property be returned to its rightful owner, suggesting that the partnership was a straw borrower. In civil lawsuits, regulators alleged that Lincoln claimed phantom profits of $82 million from the 10 deals, including $11 million on the Westcon deal, and improperly paid American Continental $31 million for income tax on the deals. So he doesn't do any jail time for any of this. Garcia doesn't. I believe Keating was originally sentenced 10 years or something, but maybe served 3.5 or something like that, 4 years. But Garcia gets 3 years of probation, probably because he narked on Keating and then cooperated with the ongoing investigation. Fun fact, by the way, while we're talking about Charles Keating was, like I mentioned earlier, a big anti-pornography guy and an insane right-wing Catholic who donated over $1 million to Mother Teresa's operations and was pretty close to her and would lend her his helicopter when she was in Arizona. And then after Keating's conviction, she actually gave that money back to the people it had been stolen from because it didn't sit right with her to accept money that had been obtained by, defrauding depositors. That's not true. That's not the last part's not true. She kept the money. She never gave the money back. She also actually petitioned the judge in Keating's trial to show leniency to him.
Oh,
insane.
So,
my God.
After his conviction,
no one is sacred. If you think, if anybody's sitting there thinking that anyone out there is sacred, they're wrong.
Of course, yeah. So after his role in the savings and loan scandal, Ernest Garcia decides that his days of subprime real estate lending and stuff like that are behind him. So in 1991, he buys a rent-a-car firm called Ugly Duckling for $1 million, and then moves into the world of subprime auto lending. So Dwight, if you wanted to pick it up from here with Ugly Duckling.
Yes, I would be happy to. And Jesus Christ, did this kind of open up a Pandora's box. And, what we're going to kind of lead into is honestly some of the most heartbreaking family stories I think I've heard in a long time. Anyway, so I'm going to read just as as like a quick explanation from an article actually from 2001 from Forbes, from the journalist Nathan Vardy. And it's going to pick up exactly from where you left off, Chris. So it says, it starts off here. It's called Feathered Nest. I have no fucking idea why it's titled that, but it was 2001. In fact, this was in November 2000.
Time.
It was it was 2 months after 9/11, so I'm sure everybody was a little scrambled.
There was a really funny line in this article, I think, that was like, Wall Street doesn't have much of an appetite nowadays for subprime lending, or like something like that.
So check it out. So it says, yes, savings and loan, blah, 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 felony, fraud charge, et cetera, et cetera. It continues here saying, but Garcia rose phoenix-like from the ashes and rebuilt his career by dint of skillful financing, deft timing, and a dash of self-dealing. In 1991, he bought a bankrupt rent-a-car franchise called Ugly Duckling for less than $1 million and merged it with his fledgling finance company. Despite his unattractive past, which that fucking is saying, that's doing a lot of work there, Garcia quickly built Ugly Duckling into the top seller and financer of used cars for people with lousy credit histories. Such subprime lender stocks were hot, and he had little trouble raising $170 million by the mid-90s by taking Ugly Duckling public, doing a secondary offering, and then issuing more shares to institutional investors. The stock, I do like this, under the ticker UGLY, UGLY. He went on to say he has no alibi. No, I'm just kidding. It went public at $6.75 a share, and then went up to $25 by 97. They grew from 8 dealerships to 77 car lots with an annual sales approaching $500 million. Now, this was interesting. I don't want to get too much into I'm not going to read through it, but basically he was like kind of teetering on the idea of doing more stock buybacks. Mm-hmm. And it got like a little lukewarm from reception from Wall Street, which then put the stock down to $3 a share, at which time he was like, I might take this private, which it's like Wall Street, the question that comes up is like, did he intentionally maneuver this way to depreciate his own stock to then be able to take it private for cheaper?
That's
which is insane. Question. But anyway, so this is where the fucking feathered fucking thing comes up. It says Garcia.
So there is a sense to it.
Yes, it's a shitty pun.
Right,
Garcia has been especially adept at feathering his own nest with Ugly Duckling's assets. In 1998, to reduce debt, Ugly raised $27 million by selling 17 properties to an independent investor group and leasing them back. A year later, not the company itself, brought the properties at 10% discount at $25 million. So this he's playing both sides, and he's giving himself a discount. To preempt criticism, Garcia gave the company the right to buy back the real estate for the discounted price he paid, but the company later waived that right in exchange for Garcia personally lending the company $7 million. About at the same time that Ugly also sold to Garcia a unit that made loans to third-party dealerships, Garcia paid mere book value, $37 million, and only $17 million of it in cash borrowed against the unit's assets. So this is a little complicated, but you'll understand. It says
little shell game going on here.
Smelling foul play. Lawyers filed 6 shareholder suits.
You gotta emphasize the other pun they put in there.
It's so
you can't deprive the listeners.
It
of the
says
pun.
smelling foul play, spelled FOWL, alleging Garcia abused his position to profit from the deals. Garcia denies it and claims he and Ugly both came out looking good. I love it. We looked great, folks. Never ever seen a deal like this before. A lot of people said that we couldn't do a deal like this, and people said, maybe Trump, this isn't the way you have to do it. But I said, we're doing a lot of good deals. If he succeeds in taking Ugly private and the subprime auto business recovers from a current downturn, Garcia would be one lucky duck. So
what a great article.
Sniffs. Again, this is like, it smells like shit. It looks like shit. It's a little odd here.
The thing that's like striking to me is that it's so complicated and like confusing to even listen to that I just feel tired just like listening to it. And these people are just doing this every day.
Yes.
Right.
So let me flesh this out, and I'm going to skip forward here a few years up to 2017 with actually the same the same journalist here in Forbes, Nathan Vardy, where it says, today, Garcia operates Drive Time Automotive, the fourth biggest used car retailer in the country. And he is separately the biggest shareholder of Carvana, a used car e-commerce company with a hot stock. He borrows big money from the nation's largest banks, owns an apartment in Trump Tower, and has struck relationships with the likes of former U.S. Vice President Dan Quayle and Mark Walter, one of the most powerful billionaires on Wall Street. Incredibly, Garcia himself is now a billionaire. Forbes estimates his net worth at $2.5 billion. Again, this was in 2017. Drive Time, which sells used cars and is in the sometimes controversial business of making auto loans to low-income customers, has seen its business grow 19% annually in the last decade. Now, we're going to talk about that. We're going to go in depth here in a minute on the what they're calling the controversial business into subprime loans. With Garcia's son, Garcia III, as CEO, Carvana has been promoted as the, quote, Amazon of cars, a Phoenix-based technology platform for buying used and selling used cars. Consumers can use its website to buy used cars, obtain financing, and arrange for vehicle delivery. Carvana also, we alluded to this earlier, Carvana also has 8 glass tower vending machines that are as high as 8 stories located in cities like Atlanta and Houston, where customers can inspect and pick up used cars.
And to be clear, like the company sells these cars to people who can't afford them and also provides the financing to these people.
I'm gonna flesh that all out because you can start to see perhaps there might be an issue with that setup. It says here, this is really interesting. With revenues of $494 million in the first 9 months of 2017, up 130% from the same period last year, Carvana is growing fast. But it also lost $57 million in the first 3 quarters of 2017 and is burning through cash, forcing it to continue raising money. Now, this article was written in 2017. It is still unprofitable.
And in that time, Ernest Garcia has added an additional $16 billion to his net worth.
Fantastic.
Go figure. Go figure.
Incredible how that works, right?
They actually just recently had their first profitable quarter, right? If I'm remembering that correctly.
I believe you're right, but again,
it was like the first time ever. And they've become billionaires off of this business that has just never been profitable.
And nothing to say that it's going to be a profitable year, too.
Right.
Certainly may not happen. And again, it just continues its pessimism here, saying Wall Street short sellers are betting big that the stock will collapse. But other large financial players have bought into Garcia's latest stock market play and keep providing it with fresh cash injections. And if we just go to Google Finance to look up their stock, and I'm just looking at it from here, the stock, it IPO'd in early 2017, and it started off at $11 a share, and it is now at $321 a share.
That's insane.
A meteoric rise, especially in post-COVID times.
Yeah.
It was $110 in February of 2020, so right before COVID. It took a hit like everything else and went down to $30, but then skyrocketed up in the span of 18 months, up to $320 a share. So the point is, the perception of the stock is that it's good, right? Because it's the Amazon of cars. And despite the fact that there's haters and losers that are short selling it, it obviously has something to it.
I read an article about how the pandemic has been really good for them because they're able to play up the contactless nature of their car buying experience.
Yes.
Which by the way is just dog shit. If you look at the Better Business Bureau, this company is a mess from a consumer perspective.
Yes.
The whole process is a nightmare, but it's apparently they were able to portray that image of being safer and easier to the point where here they are.
So Drive Time, the company that is owned by Garcia II, the father, that's profitable. And we're going to learn why in a minute. And it continues saying how he talked about, the configurations with Carvana. It ended up getting spun off, and it says, though we're talking about Drive Time here, the deal has been a huge winner for Garcia. Drive Time now generates annual revenues of some $2.5 billion and is extremely profitable. Garcia recently declined offers to buy Drive Time for just under $1 billion, according to an individual familiar with the matter. The company has securitized billions in auto finance receivables and has bank lines with Wells Fargo and Citigroup. So let's understand. I'm going to read one more paragraph, and then we're going to change over, because we need to understand, how does his business model work with drive time? Some consumer protection advocates have argued that companies that both finance and sell used automobiles too often put consumers in cars they cannot afford. But why? Why would they do that? The average drive time customer makes between $37,000 to $50,000 a year and has a poor credit history. In the recent past, at least 45% of drive time's auto installment contracts were delinquent at a given time, prompting drive time's 370 or so collection employees in the US and Barbados to start calling consumers behind on their payments. Drive time certainly gives some of their people the best shot at owning a car so they can get to their jobs in other places. How fucking cynical is that of Forbes? But the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau said 3 years ago that drive time, quote, harmed consumers by making harassing debt collection calls and providing inaccurate credit information to credit reporting agencies. So they're lying to the credit reporting agencies. Is it retaliation? Who's to say?
By the way, I like this this Nathan Vardy guy at Forbes who wrote this article. If you look at the bio, if you look at his bio at the bottom, I noticed it earlier. It was funny to me. He says, "I am a senior editor at Forbes who likes digging into Wall Street, hedge funds, and private equity firms, looking for both the good and the bad."
Okay, got to take
Thanks,
a fair
Nathan.
and balanced approach.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Nathan.
The Consumer Financial Protection Agency did bring an action against drive time in 2014. They had to pay $8 million in a civil penalty. And it says for Garcia, it was a speed bump. So to flesh this out, I want to read first quickly from a interesting website called Seeking Alpha, which is kind of my impression of it is, it's kind of like, news for investors and stuff like that. And I think I get the sense it's like kind of like individual investors. And then also these people, there's like a blog aspect to it where you can like write up things of like your take on a particular company. And it's talking about Carvana here. And there's an article also from 2017. So it says here by the writer here, Goddess Diogenes, Carvana.
What?
That's like their name. It's like fucking Tumblr, but for people with money.
Okay. I trust her.
It says Carvana, disguised as disruption in the used car sales business, backed by unethical management. And it says here, it goes on and talking about Carvana is an online platform for buying and selling cars. The company was spun out of Drive Time, a used car dealership and subprime lender known as the buy here, pay here model. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, I've never heard of that. And, probably because I just, I am not a candidate for those subprime loans and or need to have a car. I live in New York. So I looked into this, and what I found was this LA Times article from 2011. And we're going to read from this here because you start to understand how fucked up this business model is. And the LA Times article is called "A Vicious Cycle in the Used Car Business. Sign, drive, default, repossess, and resell. That's the game at buy here, pay here dealerships." And this is by Ken Bessinger. So let's read this here. We're going to go through a couple examples and then we'll kind of understand how this business model works. And again, this is the business model that Drive Time and Ernest Garcia is actually making money off of. So it starts off here with an allegory. Tiffany Lee wanted a car. She was wary of the 2-hour bus ride to her job at UCLA's health system clinic. She hated having to ask her friends to drive her 7-year-old son to his asthma treatments.
Oh, gosh.
But as a single mother with 3 children, bad credit, and a $27,000 a year salary, she couldn't find a bank or dealership willing to give her a loan. Then a friend steered her to Repossess Auto Sales in Hawthorne, California, in south of LA. Another buyer might have balked at the deal she was offered. Lee figured that she had no choice. She put $3,000 down. Again, $3,000 is what? That is 10% of her yearly salary, 11% of her yearly salary, right? And drove off in a 2007 Ford Fusion, agreeing to pay $387 a month for 4 years for a used car.
So much.
The interest rate, 20.7%, nearly triple the national average for a used car loan. A year and a half later, Lee fell behind on her payments and filed for bankruptcy. She was relieved when the dealership called and offered to make her a loan that's more affordable. The sales manager even promised to throw in a free smog check. I get the sense that, I'm not from California, but I get the sense that maybe that's like something you have to do in LA or in
It's probably
in
just like part of the
California.
vehicle inspection,
It is something,
right?
yeah, you do have to do it in California.
Okay, great. So Lee, 35 years old, drove back to Repossess Auto on a rainy Monday evening, handed the keys to an attendant, and sat down with a manager. Moments later, she said, employees parked 4 cars tightly around the Ford, blocking it in. There would be no new deal. Lee's car was being repossessed. She and her children waited in the rain until a friend could drive them home.
Oh, death penalty.
Lee, who described the night as one of the worst experiences of her life, had stumbled into the bare-knuckle world of buy here, pay here, used car sales. In this little-known but fast-growing corner of the auto market, dealers command premium prices for road-worn vehicles and finance the sales at interest rates that can top 30%. In a kind of financial alchemy, they have found a way to turn clunkers into cash cows and make money off of the least creditworthy customers, the millions of Americans who are stuck in low-paying jobs, saddled with debt, and unable to qualify for conventional auto loans. For most of those people, having a car is the only way to stay employed, and they'll accept almost any terms to get one. This is the fucking hostage taking of American capitalism that is just so fucking crazy to me. And again, this is from 2011. We're fucking reading from here. So imagine what this is like, under COVID. But anyway, buy here, pay here lots sold nearly 2.4 million cars nationwide last year, up from 1.3 million a decade ago. So it doubled. The C&W marketing research firm estimates that there are more than 33,000 such lots nationwide, compared to 20,000 dealerships selling new cars. So there's like, it's like fucking almost 50% more of these such car selling schemes compared to 20,000 dealerships, and they make $80 billion in loans every year, according to the FDIC. Now. Although dealers are loath to open their books, profit margins average nearly 40%. Now here's the fucking kicker. This is the fucking hostage taking. Many of the lots require customers to return once or twice per month to make loan payments in cash. Hence the term buy here, pay here.
Oh my God. That's what?
But think about it. If you do that, you cut out all the possibility that they write a bad check and then you're out that money for that amount of time, or their credit card doesn't go through. Plus, if they get to you with the car, then like we've heard in the example with Tiffany Lee, the asset is right in front of you. Yeah. So worst comes to worst, you'll just repossess it right then and there. Those are the terms.
Fucking sick.
It's fucked up, dude.
So fucking sick.
Again, and here it says, a key reason for the industry's growth in tough times is that dealers can come out ahead whether or not customers keep up with their loan payments. Again, like, keep in mind the context where this was 2011 and it said that the year before there was half as many of these, cars sold. This was 2010, right? So this is off the backs of the 2008 financial crisis. And the consumer effects of it really didn't the shit flows downhill. It didn't really hit until 2009, where there was all the sell-offs and all the companies just were reeling to reconfigure their business models and just figure out how to do more with less. Sure. And what that means is, more stress on workers that are being laid off, and, just a strong effort of enlistment in the reserve army of labor. So it says here, about 1 in 4 buyers default. In real estate and credit card industries, that's insane. But in the world of buy here, pay here, it's just another avenue for profit. How? How is it an avenue for profit if the buyers default? I'll tell you why. Because the car can be repossessed and then put back on the lot for sale in short time. A new buyer makes a down payment, takes on a high-interest loan, and the cycle starts anew.
Oh my God.
Provided they don't get wrecked, these recycled vehicles just keep paying dividends. At some dealerships, cars have been sold and resold over and over, 3, 4, even 8 times a piece, motor vehicle records show. So they have so many. I'm gonna read a few. Let me slow down. I'm so fucking upset. Like they have so many examples in this, but they have a really interesting little what the fuck is it called? In fact, I'm gonna send it into the chat so you guys can see it while we're talking about this. It's
Let's
like a cartoon by Lorena Ellaby, and it just explains how this happens.
Let me see.
So
the comic?
Tell me when yes, the comic, exactly.
Okay.
So here's the life cycle of one of these cars, okay?
Okay.
So a dealer buys a car at an auction for $4,500 and spends $500 to spruce it up. Maybe it's new tires, new brake pads, detailing, that sort of thing. So in this example, it's a 2004 Chevy Impala, a former rental with high mileage. But okay, it's a car. They put it for sale on the lot for $10,000.
Oh my God.
That's double what the dealer would cost, right? Because it cost, $4,500 for the car, $500 to spruce it up, so $5,000 in total. Put it on the lot for $10,000. Now, the new owner puts $1,500 down, then pays 24% interest on a 3-year loan, paying $154 in cash to the dealer every 2 weeks in person.
That's so much.
The total cost to the buyer is $13,512. Therefore, the dealer makes a profit of $8,500 if the customer pays off the loan in full. And as we understand, that's out of 3 out of 4 customers, because 1 out of 4 defaults. Mm-hmm. Or if the customer defaults, then the car is back on the lot with a new sales price of $8,500, right? Because there's a little wear and tear and stuff like that. It's at another owner. The dealer's potential profit is $11,250 if a new customer pays the car and pays the loan, or $4,200 if the second buyer also defaults. It doesn't matter because they're making profit every fucking time.
Yeah.
It's
That's
predatory.
So crazy.
It's predatory.
That should not be legal.
It should not.
That should not be legal.
Again, any fucking sane government would regulate the shit out of this and just make these things disappear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no fucking way. So oh God, this is bad. I'm going to read a little lower down here where it says, okay. At traditional auto dealerships, the buying experience is a well-polished routine. Coffee
it's a
flows
nightmare
freely.
too, though.
Yeah, it's a fucking nightmare.
Fuck off.
and the salesman may spring for lunch. The car rolls off the lot with a tank full of gas, but it's a different vibe
Maybe if
here.
you're at a Mercedes dealer or something.
Yeah, 100%.
Not
Like
a Honda.
fucking
Fuck
Maserati.
off.
Yeah.
It's a different vibe at buy here, pay here lots. Banners promise to finance anyone and say that bad credit is no problema. In addition to advertising on radio and TV, dealers buy lists of recent bankruptcy filers to target with mail solicitations and phone calls.
That's so sick.
Oh my goodness.
Rarely are prices displayed on car windshields. Instead, negotiations focus on how much the customer can put down up front and then pay each month. So the fucking price of the car isn't even it's fluid, right?
This
is like price elasticity. Like this is what we would talk about in like economics, where it's just like the price is more dependent on like the ability to pay and shit.
Right.
Many dealers don't worry about buyers' credit scores, knowing they can't be good, but they almost always insist on long lists of references so they can pressure friends and family when a payment is missed. This harassment is basically guaranteed harassment. They also frequently help customers apply for those earned income tax credit for low-income workers, and then offer a loan against the anticipated refund to use as a down payment. Holy shit!
That's
Dealers report
so crazy.
This is so bad. Dealers report a surge in sales in the 3 months leading up to tax day.
Oh.
And this is so fucked up. Stan Schwartz has frequented buy here, pay here lots for more than a decade, selling payment devices such as GPS beacons that can be concealed on cars.
Oh no, it's to like track people?
Yeah, of course.
That should not be legal.
So it says here, their credit is so bad that they can't even get subprime financing, and they're going to be stuck in that hole for years, unable to get out. So they go on with like a few different. I almost want to read this one more example. I think I will real quick. Bor Fa bought a 2004 Honda Odyssey with 70,000 miles from Yiz Auto Sales in Sacramento, a buy here, pay here dealership that caters to the Central Valley's Hmong community. The price was $13,000. The contract, handwritten in English, said she'd pay $12 interest on the loan. 12% interest on the loan.
Oh, okay. All right. That sounds
Yeah.
a little
You were making them
different.
sound reasonable for a moment.
Yeah.
Fa said she trusted the dealer because he was a fellow Hmong and had sold her 2 cars in the past. Late last year, she tried trading in the van at a different lot. The salesman looked at her contract with Yias and determined that her monthly payment of $326 actually reflected a 20% interest rate, not the much lower listed rate, which was just written. The higher rate would cost Fa an additional $3,200 over the 5-year term of the loan. I was totally surprised, Fa's factory worker said through a translator. I believe what the contract had said. Another Hmong woman in Sacramento, No Lee, signed a similar contract with a stated interest rate of 12%, but her payments were actually a 21.2 rate. So unbelievably predatory. So where does this come in with our friends Drive Time and Garcia? Well, here, some buy here, pay here chains securitize their loan portfolios themselves. Drive Time Automotive Group in Phoenix, a chain of 88 dealerships in 17 states, has issued 2 offerings of bundled car loans this year, totaling $461 million. The securities consist of more than 52,000 loans with an average interest rate of 21%. The borrower's average credit score was 518, according to the rating firm DBRS.
Dude.
That score, out of a possible 850, I had no idea that 850 was even a credit score that you could even get, to be honest, until I read that just now. Oh, we're so fucked. It's a credit score of 518 or whatever is known as deep subprime. A prime score being anything above 720. More than $7 billion in subprime auto securities were sold by a dozen issuers through June 30th, compared with $3 billion from the same period last year, according to Moody's. So what does that mean? That means that Drive Time, Ernest Garcia II, is bundling subprime auto loans in 2010 and 2011. Right the fuck after the 2008 financial crisis, where bundled financial instruments, bundled fucking subprime home loans and fucking tanked the entire global economy. Like nothing was learned. No. They're doing the same thing. They're like, actually, we could just do that with auto loans, right? So it says here, Oppenheimer Funds, which has more than $188 billion in assets and 11 million shareholders, holds Drive Time securities in at least 6 of its mutual funds. So like let's say you have a 401k or you've got a pension with like a state pension plan. That state pension plan might go to Oppenheimer Funds and invest in it.
Right.
So you are profiting off of these insane subprime financial instruments, which have unbelievable interest rates. So you're just profiting, these shareholders are just profiting off the abject misery of the people that are completely held hostage by the need to have a car.
That's so fucking sick.
It's so fucking sick, guys. It's so fucking sick. So there's a million. This is an extremely long, comprehensive article and goes on. And there's like I think we're even just reading from part 1, if I'm not mistaken. And then it's just
and they've become billionaires off of that.
They've become billionaires off of this.
Yeah.
Well, also insider trading, not completely this.
Oh, you're so right. Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Give them a little bit of credit.
That's so true.
So I obviously don't want to fucking pull us down in the dirt any longer with this. I think we've made the point that Ernest Garcia II's money has been made off of just this fucked up. I don't even know how to. It's a scam. Like,
yeah,
I don't even know how to.
Yeah.
Like in any fucking just society, like this would be illegal to do.
Yeah.
And this guy is like enormously wealthy.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting here is I want to read again from another Seeking Alpha article by somebody named C. Lastic. It's CLASTIC. So this is like, from their blog. And they are in this publication, Seeking Alpha, they're kind of like talking about, what do we make of this Carvana thing? Because again, they're objectively an unprofitable company. So the question is like, why are people investing so much in this? And I'm going to read from their article blog post here that says Carvana overvalued disruptor, subprime lender, or clever fraud. And it says here under the summary, so it's like the bullet points, Carvana has achieved industry-leading growth, but there are no indications the business will ever generate positive economic earnings. It's controlled by a convicted felon. Related party transactions enrich founders and insiders at the expense of stakeholders. Basic accounting tricks to fool public. And so it goes on here. I don't want to get too in the weeds with it, but it says here, like, we are skeptical beyond its story stock status, meaning like, a stock that you'd invest in because it tells a good story, right? Hey, we're the Amazon of cars. Carvana engages in various related party transactions that materially benefit founders and insiders. The company also employs misleading performance metrics, aggressive financial accounting, and an obfuscating corporate structure, all of which disguise what appears to be efficient monetization of the Garcia family's legacy business, DriveTime, which is owned and controlled by the CEO's father, the CEO being Ernest Garcia III. Capital is raised in the public markets from equity and debt investors, which is used to sell cars at a loss while paying DriveTime, right, the father's fucking company, for vehicle service contracts and real estate that is leased or purchased and subsequently sold, private jets, etc. So again, what this blog post investor is going to say is like, it just seems like a fucking there's got to be a word for it, but like an interconnected scam where it's like they're siphoning business off to his dad. And a vehicle service contract would be like, so when they do go buy something on an auction and need to have it come in for service, brake pads,
Right.
A detail or something like that, he's giving the contract to his fucking dad.
That's crazy. That's so crazy.
It's so again, this is a publicly traded company. But you would say like, publicly traded companies should undergo a lot of this scrutiny. But they're making so much money for their investors, no one cares to look into it.
But they're not even profitable. They're just making fake money.
But nobody fucking cares because the stock keeps going up. To conceal the horrible economics, Carvana has been relying on an old accounting trick, non-cash gain on loan sale, to demonstrate progress towards profitability. And a gain on loan sale is the difference between the pros. I'm just reading from some fucking accountant bullshit. The gain on the sale is the difference between the proceeds received from the sale and the cost allocated to the loan sold. I don't know what that means, but
that's a lot of big words.
Pause it and go back, and maybe you'll get it. In their most recent quarter, they also wrote up fair market value on beneficial interests in prior securitizations of subprime auto loans. So meaning like they're making their accountancy look rosy, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because it's good.
So I love it keeps going here, and this was written in 2020. So this was written almost a year ago, November of 2020. So it says here, Carvana bills itself as a leading e-commerce platform for buying and selling used cars, right? Fawning analysts and growth-oriented investors have called Carvana the Amazon.com of auto retailing. An alternate view is that Carvana is a traditional auto retailer and loan originator operating in a cyclical, sometimes risky and capital-intensive industry, right? Because you got to buy the cars. The most applicable comparable here would be WeWork, an old economy business pretending to be a technology-focused disruptor while relying heavily on external capital to fund marginal economic growth at an inflated valuation. And I totally buy this. I totally think that this is correct. It's an old economy business. It's since there were cars, there were, scummy fucking used car lots. And this is clearly a scam. And it continues here saying, yet another view is that Carvana is a monetization scheme for maximizing the value of the Garcia's family legacy DriveTime business.
There it is. That's what it is.
Yep. With no real profit motive for the company other than enriching insiders and DriveTime owners. In essence, Carvana is a Ponzi scheme. Think Enron.
Think Enron.
And I love this here that there's like, I won't get into the weeds of this, but it says like, here are 3 different perceptions that require 3 different valuations. I won't get into the valuations, but it says, 1, Carvana is an overvalued Amazon.com type disruptor, which maybe the most generous interpretation, right? That like, this is what they do. Nobody believed us in the beginning, but we just became so big that, well, we just became it, right? Now everybody just shops at Amazon. Same thing with Carvana. We'll just become so big that regardless of whether or not it was fucking scummy or broken in the first place, we just became that it worked. Or 2, Carvana as a subprime loan originator, meaning that primarily what their business is just to get those fucking people locked up in those subprime loan fucking whatever. Or 3, Carvana is a monetization scheme for insiders, right? Like, it's just it's a fucking scam.
Combination of 2 and 3.
I think that you're probably right about that.
Yeah.
I think that you're probably right about that. I think, for just the explanation of what this company is, I think I've made my point here of like how fucking bad it is. You know what? Let me just read just from that other Seeking Alpha article where it just talks about Garcia's son, Garcia the Third. It says here, Garcia's the second son, Garcia the Third, worked as the treasurer at Drive Time. Armed with a degree from Stanford, Garcia the Third launched Carvana as an online subsidiary of Drive Time and has received various operational benefits. You know what it fucking reminds me of? You know that episode of The Office where Ryan, the intern, like gets into corporate and he was like, we're going to do this business, but we're going to do it online. It's just like the fucking young kid that, that Garcia, he earns the 30s, he's a smart kid, he's smart as a whip. I trust that guy. He did my fucking taxes one year. He comes in and his whole thing is like, I'm young and we do things online now. So let's do this. And I honestly think that's like as much thought as has gone into that. But of course, like from a familial point of view, they're like, well, hang on, how are we going to fucking turn a profit from this?
Right.
So, Carrie, I'm going to turn it over to you because I think, to kind of put a cap in this, there's just, oh God, there's just some other examples of how fucked up this whole business model is.
There was also something related to like these financial devices that they use, and I couldn't find the details, and it's possible it's because I do not understand how this works. But when I was like splitting out the research between us, I noticed that the Kroll bond rating agency had rated their financial devices. Like very recently, they released preliminary ratings. I couldn't find the ratings, but it's like literally they're rating, I guess, the investor value of these subprime loans that they're giving out. So just a little fun like throwback to the
just a little
episode.
crossover.
So the stuff that I had is just like other like shady business practices that they have from a consumer perspective. They did have an illegal storage facility in LA. There was like I think it was a Facebook post from the city of Pomona, and it kind of detailed what happened, which was that in 2020, the staff there was contacted and told, like Carvana would like to use a portion of the Fairplex Fairgrounds for vehicle storage and the unloading and loading of vehicles during normal business hours. There's not going to be any auctioning happening there. There's not going to be any maintenance happening there. And the staff at the Fairplex was advised that due to the COVID pandemic, the Carvana operation was essential to the financial well-being of Fairplex.
Unreal.
Whatever the fuck that means.
Unreal. That sounds corrupt as shit.
The city analyzed like the city's economic development staff analyzed the proposed use. They advised Carvana that its proposed long-term use of the fairgrounds was not permitted, and that various entitlements, including an amendment to the specific plan, would be required for them to be able to use it. They had a few other like stipulations, and then Carvana just kind of started using the fairgrounds as a parking lot in March 2021 without obtaining a business license from the city. In June 2021, the city began receiving complaints about the operations they were running there, including just large transport trucks using residential streets, diesel fumes from the trucks, loud music in the early morning hours when the trucks were delivering cars, and vibrations from the heavy trucks transporting the cars. They were sent a cease and desist on August 3rd, 2021. Carvana's California legal counsel contacted the city attorney on August 9th, 2021, requesting a meeting to discuss a quick resolution of the dispute. And basically, they had to agree they were just going to get the fuck out of these fairgrounds that they were never supposed to be using in the first place. They just kind of did it,
Unbelievable.
But the city attorney called this literally, quote, an illegal vehicle storage business. They just did it. And that's who they are, right? They just do whatever.
They just do whatever.
In a similar vein, the other thing that I found that was really interesting, that then I dug a little bit more into this through Better Business Bureau reports, because I was curious how many people this had happened to. There was a story in Jalopnik about Carvana skirting like vehicle registration and titling laws. Depending on the state, it's a little bit different. Sometimes you buy a car, you do the registration yourself. Other times the dealer does it for you. Obviously, it gets a little bit more complicated when it's like an online-only dealer like Carvana. And so in the state of North Carolina, just one person basically reported them, I guess, to the Attorney General. And this resulted in a lawsuit because this person said Carvana like never gave me my title. They never like did everything that needed to be done for me to register my vehicle. And so as a result of this, it was investigated and Carvana had given out of state plates to the car. Like the car was literally registered in another state. And so the person could not register in North Carolina to be able to legally drive it in North Carolina as you normally would. And it took like months. So they finally said, like, fuck it, I'm going to go to the state officials. I'm going to tell them what's going on. And this resulted in Carvana being banned from selling cars in Raleigh, North Carolina for 6 months, but only in Raleigh, North Carolina. And there was a funny, before I get to the Better Business Bureau stuff, there was a really funny comment on the Jalopnik article. I read through all the comments and somebody said, I'm sure they'll lose some profits during 180 days, but am I the only one who feels the punishment is a little light? And we'll see, the punishment is a little light because they're doing this literally fucking everywhere. But somebody responded to that. Let's say you make a mistake and don't do something for your job. It's something that you routinely do all the time, but you neglect to do it one time. Weeks later, someone at work calls you out for not doing that thing, and work tells you that you're not allowed to work for 6 months. Now think about that and tell me if you think the punishment feels light.
What the fuck?
It's just like, come on, dude. It's in one place they're not allowed to sell cars. And this did make me curious, like, are they doing this everywhere? Would it surprise you to know that the Amazon of cars is evil and is doing this everywhere and completely fucking people over all the fucking time?
Exactly.
So I read through, I think there's like over 1,000 Better Business Bureau reports, and I only searched for registration. I'm sure there's like a lot of other issues with Carvana's business model. I did notice just in like skimming the ones that I didn't pick out that people said there were issues with like maintenance, parts of the car that were not covered under their like 7-day money back guarantee, but that's not what I was looking for. I was looking specifically for this issue where Carvana does not turn over the titles for the vehicles and does not like do what needs to be done for registering the vehicles, even though they're charging the customers hundreds of dollars for this. You know, if you've ever bought a car at a dealership, you usually pay like a few $100s for the title and tag, right? So here's like just some highlights from those reviews. 0 stars, 9 months waiting for vehicle tags and registration. Promised a check would be overnighted to cover a rental car since they are no longer able to issue temp tags. We've had temp tags issued over and over for the past 9 months. No check ever came. Now the vehicle sits because it is not legal to drive without tags.
Exactly. You're going to get fucked. You're going to get pulled over.
Another one, it has been 4 months and they have no receipt or paperwork. Good luck trying to get anything done other than the sale. That is all Carvana cares about. Another one, I purchased my vehicle 2 months ago. I still don't have the registration. Apparently Carvana is still waiting on the title for the car I bought for them. No ETA has been given. And the thing that also comes up a lot is like every single time they call, there's no like case management system, I guess. So there's people that have called like every single day for like 6 months and they have to re-explain the situation to somebody every single time. And the person's just like, oh yeah, it's going to get taken care of. Don't worry about it. And then they just never get the title for this car that they bought.
Jesus.
Another one, Carvana was fine until 7 days after the delivery of my vehicle when my right to return it expired. I am now 3 months beyond that date, trying everything possible to get my third temporary plate/tag as the second one expired yesterday. My registration in 3 months has gone from Carvana to their third-party processor to my state motor vehicle department back to Carvana. They cannot/will not explain what that means. A Carvana rep told me yesterday on the phone that some customers have waited a year for their license plates. The service reps work at home. They have no access to any supervisor ability to escalate issues. Would I buy another car from Carvana? Yes, but they would not collect any money to register my vehicle. I would do that myself. Because again, they're charging, like somebody said they were charged over $600. I purchased my car in October. They sold the car without a title. It took until June of the next year to get my car registered. Another one waited from April till August. And when they finally got the title, it had a lien on it, which the car was paid off. There was no reason for the title to have a lien. One person said they purchased the car in November 2020. It's now September 2021. No registration for the vehicle. So they're literally just selling after like the ability to get temp tags expires. People just can't legally drive these cars. Yeah. And there's like hundreds of people that this is happening to all over the country. It's not just in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Not doing much for their argument that they're not a scam company.
Right.
Right. Interestingly as well, the other thing I noticed, if you go to the Better Business Bureau profile, and anybody can see this, it's right at the top. There's a thing that says current alerts for this business. Government action. Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office versus Carvana LLC. The following describes a government action that has been resolved by either a settlement or a decision by a court or an administrative agency. On July 20th, 2021, Carvana LLC entered into a settlement agreement with the LA County District Attorney's Office. The agreement settles allegations that the business sold cars in the state of California without a dealer's license, and the business delivered cars in the state of California without a transporter's license. Under the terms of the settlement, the business has agreed to pay $150,000 in penalties, $50,000 for investigative costs, and $50,000 in restitution. Like, that's nothing compared to the billions of dollars that they've made off of this at all.
Exactly.
Like, it's just nothing.
Like it said in one of the other articles, it's like it's just a speed bump. It's like a little speeding ticket for him.
And again, I know I say this like almost every episode, I feel like now, but this is just like, this is something that comes up over and over, right? Anytime that any of these companies or families that we cover get caught doing something blatantly illegal, whatever penalty they get is just like a slap on the wrist. It's nothing. It's what like $5 would be for us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You know, for a company started by a guy that was convicted of being involved in something that is labeled a crisis.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't lend much confidence to this.
Right.
Well, another thing too, and I alluded to it earlier, and I think Dwight, you might have mentioned it in one of the things you read earlier about all the times they've been accused of insider trading, like specifically, they've had like several lawsuits. I believe it was six shareholder lawsuits that Ernest Garcia II had against him during his time with Ugly Duckling before it was Drive Time. But also, like, even just last year, there's another thing I wanted to kind of mention right here real quick, where both the father and the son, they're both accused of insider trading in a lawsuit, but like specifically using like the start of the pandemic to kind of like shore up their wealth. So basically, when COVID hit and Carvana took Carvana stock like took a nosedive because like everybody did at that time.
Of course.
Yeah, right.
And so their stock started tanking in late February, right before the pandemic started, and then on March 30th and April 1st of last year, the company did like a stock offering of 13.3 million Class A shares, like the voting shares in the company at $45 each. That was open only to company insiders and certain existing investors, according to Carvana's press release. But like a large chunk of these were bought up by the father and son, specifically, who very shortly after that, announced that they were expanding their quote soon as next day touchless home delivery to 100 more cities in 25 states. So like they did this like like bottom of the barrel when their stock was at its lowest, did this sort of offering. The father and son again bought up a large chunk of those, knowing that they were about to announce this big expansion of their company and increasing their net worth by a combined $2 billion. That's insane. Just a little quick turnaround,
I'm not sure if you guys mentioned this because I am a little tipsy now. I have been just chugging wine and Red Bull. And Shane is pouring me a little bit more wine. You can see him right there.
Hi, Shane.
Oh my God.
One of the lawsuits against them. That's good, honey. Thank you.
Does Shane see my minion? Shane, look at my minion.
Shane, did you see Chris's minion? He wants to make sure you saw it. It's like a check it out.
Minion.
There's the minion. It's
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So
Minion lives.
So in one of the investor lawsuits filed against them saying, that they're trying to like enrich themselves off the company, which they obviously are, like it mentions that the father and son together control more than 92% of Carvana's voting power. Like that's how much stock they own in the company.
Yes.
It's literally just for them to get rich. Like there's nothing else. And he's the father, I think it was like in October of last year, sold billions of dollars worth of stock in one transaction. It's so transparent.
Why not? Just siphon it to some other company. Yeah, look, I'm not a savvy investor, but I'm going to say here that this is not going to last.
It's been working so far. You would think it wouldn't last, but I think they're just allowed to do this.
If it smells like shit and it stinks, it looks like shit, it's a better way to buy a car. Carvana.
This podcast is officially sponsored by Carvana.
So it's time to pay the bill, guys. How was your weekend? I actually got a new car. I got a 2018 Nissan Altima. Did you see that? Oh, yeah, John, I did see that. That was pretty cool that you got a 2018 Nissan Altima, because I actually got a 2019 Honda Odyssey myself. Oh, yeah, I'm sure the dog loved that. Yeah, I love that. It's just that's not even satire. That's just like how they talk.
Yeah. I do want a big Carvana coin.
I
Yes,
really
also
want
want
one, actually. They're kind of cool. Yeah.
I'm gonna get you one for your
Will you
birthday.
please? Actually.
I will.
I want a Carvana challenge coin. To wrap this up, I mean, this is it's a scam. Like, there's no allegedly or whatever, if they're listening.
No, it is.
Whatever.
It's illegal. They should be in jail.
And the most generous thing that we can say about this is that it should be regulated into oblivion. Like, there's no reason that, the kind of buy here, pay here business model should exist in the least bit.
Yeah, it should not exist. And of course, in part, it relies on, as I think you mentioned, Dwight, like that need for people to have a car to even get to work. Like, it's crazy. Like, this whole system of like everybody needing to have a car when really most people should not need to have a car just to be able to work kind of facilitates this type of business popping up, making buying a car so easy. You can just put a coin in a vending machine. When I see like the vending machines, I remember when I lived in Tampa, they built one and I had to drive by it all the time when I would pick up my ex from work. And it is just like it just makes me so mad. Like, it just should not exist.
even just like on like a architectural level. Like, that's what capitalist architecture looks like. It's just this like big heaving boil like on land that's just that's just a monument to millions of people that are terrified that their friends and family are going to get calls from harassing from loans that are being harassed for their fucking auto loan.
It's just so like viscerally repulsive. And then knowing that they've become billionaires off of it. He literally made $3.6 billion in one day off of a stock transaction, the father. Like, it's just, they have lawsuits against it, but it is just transparent that the company exists to enrich them personally. And they are just able to do that. So,
yep.
I
think I need to take a break. let's leave it here. God knows what the fuck we're gonna get into next week. I don't know, man. This is
all right.
Jesus,
we
I'm
can
going
wrap
for a
up
drink.
on how would you punish these guys? I think you should put them in a self-driving Tesla and let nature take its course. That's what I would do.
Oh God. I can't. I'm gonna. We'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that. I can neither confirm nor. All right, folks. Till next time, we'll leave it here. Good God. God help us.
Good night.
Oh, God.
Love you so much.
Good